Good afternoon, and welcome. Welcome to each and every one. 16 years on the stage, and I opened every performance in buckskin. For I honor the joy, the pride of my people.
And they looked at me as if I were some wild Indian.
Really, I said. Isn't that interesting? They look at me exactly the same way.
Do they now? She said. Now why on earth would that be?
Well, perhaps because I am one of those wild Indians.
You don't mean it, said the woman. Why, you don't look it one little bit. Do you mean to tell me, she added, that your big old daddy is a red man?
Now, I could have left it there, but I did not. And when the mother's despair was almost at its lowest, she heard along that rippling waterway a canoe coming with the sweet sounds of chanting. And she listened, and she heard the voice of her daughter.
Again, I'll run the rigging again. I'll put off my cap and feather and I'll run the rigging again.
And run the rigging I did in London, England that spring. 1894. Have you been to London, England?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that spring the city was alive. The arts were welcomed. And I was welcomed. I had several notes, as I mentioned, from, a variety of theater producers, even the Lieutenant Governor of British Columbia. And they worked like a charm. I was welcomed into the studios and the parlors and the evening recitals, and I became known as the Mohawk Princess. It is a pain that I hold that I must admit I have not come to full terms with. But I needed to get back to work. Traveling 500 miles in a wagon with the horses, and every time we stopped, we put on a show. Why, once there was no theater, we were in the pool hall, and they just covered the pool table with the Hudson Bay blankets and popped me up on top of that table. And we tramped through mud and grime, and the fatigue hit me. But I knew it was more than fatigue. The pain in my arm, I knew was more than just being tired. Oh, I am so excited about telling you this. I have an apartment on House Street. 1117 House Street. It is my first home address. Chief Joe presented me with a cedar bark canoe, and my health permits it that we can go out. We can go out for canoe paddles. And he has honored me by coming to my home and sitting at my table and sharing the legends of his people. And that is what I am working on right now. Editing the legends of Vancouver from the Capilano people. Death is not the great unmentionable. We need to think about it, and we need to talk about it. For the last 50 years, I've been caring for the dying. As a nurse, as a social worker, and as a physician.
She thought she might become a secretary to a politician. The rest of her life showed she was aiming a trifle low. Her heart, though, was very much elsewhere. She wanted to become a nurse. So in 1940, when she was 22, she enrolled in the Nightingale Training School for Nurses at St. Thomas's Hospital in London. This was wartime London. Yeah? Unheated rooms, blackout restrictions, and the nursing training centers constantly moving around because of the bombing.
We had the most spirited nursing teacher. She had a delightful mix of strictness and humor. Only run in cases of fire and hemorrhage, she would declare. But my favorite of all her sayings, get out of breath at least once a day. It's good for you. As a nursing student, I was involved in all the wards, including pediatrics. And I vividly recall caring for a young patient, a boy. And when he died, I could not bear to give him over to the porter. And so I wrapped him in a blanket, and I gathered him in my arms, and I carried him myself down to the morgue. And I hoped we would meet. And we did. And I was as impressed with the artist as I was with the art. Actually, I fell in love with the art first and then with the artist. Well, it would seem that the attraction was mutual. And as our relationship developed, he even painted my portrait. Eventually, we lived together. Well, this was all very wicked for the time.